Welcome back to another episode of We Don't Know What to Watch, the podcast where two guys watch random movies and then talk about them. With me, as always, is the amazing, the incredible, the Jim Carrey Riddler to my Frank Gorshin Riddler, Kyle Mulford, and I'm Noah Saturn. How you doing, Kyle?
Would you like to play a game? Sorry, I was trying to go with the movie. I was trying to go with the movie and the Jim Carrey.
Yes.
I'm doing good. Today's movie is brought to you by Jigsaw Puzzles because our podcast is the missing piece in your life.
Hey, nice.
Oh.
Go to jigsawpuzzle.com. Put in promo code WDKWTW for 10% off your first order.
In case you haven't figured it out, we watched Saw 3, Saw 7, Jigsaw, we watched
Spiral.
Saw 2, Spiral, we watched Saw 2.
Saw 2, here we go again.
Oh yes, there will be blood.
Yes. Saw 2, Secret of the Ooze.
This is a movie directed by Darren Lynn Bousman, who actually directed Saw 2, 3, 4, and then the new Chris Rock one, Spiral, which I didn't mind Spiral. And then he also directed another movie I would recommend, Repo, the Genetic Opera.
Huh, good for him.
And it was written by Lee Wanell, who also co-wrote the original Saw with James Wan.
Yep, so a little background here. I remember when the Saw movies were coming out, they seemed like the big, it was like this, because it was this, and then it was Paranormal Activity. They were kind of the horror franchises that ruled the 2000s through like the early to mid 2010s.
Yeah, because this series ended up being the one that, like, for several years in a row, October was Saw month. So there were some horror movies that wouldn't even release in October because they didn't want to compete with the new Saw movie.
Yeah, it almost became like one of those, I would argue, probably like Friday the 13th. There was an annual sequel.
Yeah, and it was very popular, and unfortunately, the one unfortunate thing that came out of Saw was I liked the first Saw. I liked the concept, but then it was this. It kind of brought in the dawn of the torture porn era, which is not a great term, and I know people don't like that term, like, film critics and stuff like that. They hate using that term, but you know what I mean when I say that's the kind of movie brought in, like your Eli Roth Hostel movies and stuff like that, where it's like,
Human Centipede.
Yes, Human Centipede, which I have never seen, and I am glad to say I've never seen. Ass to mouth. But yeah, so
is it mouth to ass?
Mouth to but yeah, the Saw franchise, beginning with the first Saw, is kind of what ushered in a lot of copycats into the torture porn kind of era of movie making for like the mid 2000s to the 2010. But I have to say that I think I watched this one in the theater because I did like the first one. And I may have seen the third one, but I don't remember, because the only thing I remembered out of this was the needle pit. But we'll get to that.
I can imagine why.
Right.
So also, this film is the precursor to the Blue Bloods franchise, as it stars Donnie Wahlberg as a cop.
As Eric Matthews, the grown-up Eric Matthews from Boy Meets World becomes the cop who solves the jigsaw puzzle.
Makes perfect sense to me.
We'll get into Donnie Wahlberg too, because I watched this movie and then I watched it again with the commentary from the director and Donnie Wahlberg and Beverly Mitchell, who was another one of the actresses in it, who also played Lucy Camden on Seventh Heaven.
Man, what is it with these sitcom actors going into horror movies?
You got New Kids on the Block in here. You got Seventh Heaven people in here. So what's the snowball pitch here?
Well, there's this creepy serial killer type guy named Jigsaw, and his little things is that he puts people in elaborate homemade traps, so to try to get them to realize their lives and have a near-death experience, so then they can escape.
because
and
they're usually people who do bad things. They're not like they're people who do bad things and aren't utilizing their life to and appreciating their life is his
yeah.
MO.
So like a drug addict, a drug dealer, someone who's been in prison, you know.
Yeah, and so then in this film, this opens up with a guy with like this bear trap looking. It's like a Venus flytrap thing on his neck that will snap shut after so many seconds if he doesn't cut. The thing is he always makes it so these people can get out of these traps, but you're going to be disfigured if you get out of it.
Yeah, in a
Um,
gross way.
so he has to cut a key out of his own eyeball, and he can't do it. So then the bear trap closes. And that is one of the things that I appreciate about this movie is I watched a lot of the behind the scenes on the actual traps in this, and the stuff is all practical. So like this thing actually does snap shut on this guy. It just has rubber spikes in it,
Mm-hmm.
and so like it like they tried to make everything functional in this movie, which is kind of cool. So he doesn't get that out of there, and then when he dies, then they call in Donnie Wahlberg's cop because there's a message on the ceiling that says "Look closer, Detective Matthews." So he called out Detective Matthews specifically, and he's like, "Oh, this is one of my informants." So that was his whole thing. Is like, "You're a snitch and informant, so be better." Um,
Mm-hmm.
but so then he figures that out, and then he figures out where Jigsaw is because of the kind of steel he used, and he goes and they find Jigsaw, played by Tobin Bell, and then he's like, "Oh, you got me! Oh no!" But what's in that room? And it's like this this feed of a
Yeah,
bunch of people in a room.
but one of them looks familiar.
Uh, yeah, it's Donnie Wahlberg's son, and so
It's
he's
Mark Wahlberg. No,
played by Mark Wahlberg.
that'd be so great.
So yeah, then it's like a cat and mouse game with Jigsaw going, "Where's my son?" And so they have to get someone in to like trace where the feed's coming from and everything, and it's and then Donnie Wahlberg versus Jigsaw just kind of bantering back and forth, and eventually a bunch of people die in the house that they're in, and then Donnie Wahlberg beats up Jigsaw and he takes him to the house, and then he finds out, oh, that wasn't a live feed, it was recorded, and his son was safe the whole time. The other people
On
are dead though.
VHS.
On VHS. Just push play. Yeah, so I loved Tobin Bell in this movie.
Um, he seemed like he was doing his supervillain monologue.
I just like how cold and calculating he was. I think that was a choice, not like he was just. I liked his facial expressions and how he's like he has this knowing look, like I know what you're going to do this entire time. And he plays Donnie Wahlberg's cop like a fiddle, and I thought that was kind of interesting, and I like the little clues throughout that he's like, oh, all you have to do is sit and talk to me and your son will be in a safe place. And just like the little things that are like, oh yeah, it was right there.
Like safe and secure,
Yeah, safe and secure or something like that. And and then yeah, spoilers of course, because we spoil everything. At the end, if Donnie Wahlberg would have just sat and talked to him, because he had 2 hours until he said like everybody in the house was going to die from the poison that was in their system, and when the 2 hours was up, they were all gone because they went to the house and the safe popped open where they were sitting, and there's his son. So, but apparently there's other little things throughout there to give you a hint that it was recorded. And watching the commentary from Donnie Wahlberg was kind of interesting because he goes, yeah, my cop is really stupid because there's some dolls from the needle room. There's the picture where that was on the wall, the picture frame that was X marks the spot was sitting in the room. So like all this stuff got brought back into Jigsaw's warehouse after everything transpired, and then
kind of fun.
Yeah, so it's all there. Like if the detective would have just taken the time to like look around, and if he would have noted, but like the thing is how do you when your son is one of the people in the room, you're so focused on that you don't notice, oh, everything in the video is actually here too. How is that?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But then there's the whole house scene where you've got like all the victims in the house and the different rooms they go into. So there's different contraptions, and I think
Yeah, you have the
that's
numbers in the back of your mind. You just have to put them in the right order, and you'll be over the rainbow. Get it? Get it?
I
Riddle
know
me this, Batman.
I know. I was like, is everybody in this room stupid? That's like the easiest clue ever. Like as soon as they said it, I'm like, look on the backs of your heads, dude. It's just
Yeah,
like
and you just gotta remember Roy G. Biv, and you're good to go.
Roy G. Biv on the back of your head.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't do that, and so they try and go out the door. And I just love that there's a thing that says don't like Jigsaw leaves like taped things on there. He's like, here's a key. Don't use this on the door. And so they use it on the door, and the guy gets shot through the door. That was actually another working contraption. Turning the key actually pulled the trigger. That was all one shot. So when he went up to the door, he already had the fake aesthetic on his eye, or prosthetic on his eye.
Okay.
And he walked up to the door, turned it, and then the camera went to the other side of the door. And as he turned the key, trigger pulled, and then they went back in, and he pulled away from the door, and there his eye was, and then he fell over with the prosthetic on the back of his head. And so that was actually all one shot, and it was all practical, and like the gun actually was triggered by turning the key.
That's cool.
Yeah, so there's cool little things like that, because
And I can appreciate it. I can appreciate that. Do I appreciate the film? Not quite as much. I do appreciate the production design of the traps and how grimy everything looks. It makes you want to take a shower and get a tetanus shot.
right. So let's go through some of the other traps. We've got the furnace room.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy goes in, and so what they're doing is Jigsaw says on the recording, you're inhaling a gas, and there are antidotes throughout the house, and if you can get them, otherwise you're going to die in 2 hours from this gas. And they start coughing up blood, so it's legit that they're going to die. And but every needle is within a trap, so you're basically harming yourself to get it. And so then the furnace one is, there's two of them in there, and he goes in, and we pulls the second one down. The door closes on him, and the flames start up, and he burns up in there.
That's
and
a
then
bummer.
that is a bummer. And then there's the needle pit scene where it's like you've got like 30 seconds to jump into this pit of syringes.
Probably dirty.
Yeah, right. This was an interesting one, because watching how they did this is, it took them 4 days, and they had like I think they ended up with over 100,000 plastic syringes, and they individually took out the actual needle from every one of them and put in a fiber optic cable as a needle. And they did this for like over 100,000 of these, and it took them 4 days, and they painted all of them to look grimy and bloody.
I mean, yeah, I can appreciate the craftsmanship for sure.
That is dedication to your craft. 4
And
days.
they looked gross. They did a great job.
Yeah. And so they dug that hole in the floor, and then they had to put like some padding underneath, because they were like, we did like 20,000, and we're like, oh, this doesn't even barely cover the floor. And they're like, we got to like 60,000. We're like, oh, we need more. And then they went more than that. And then they're like, then we had to like just like underneath the needles, we had to put like some padding and stuff like that. And then because I think this movie had like a budget of $4 million. They were very low budget, and it was all filmed in one set. So even the outside shots, like where he's walking with his son, was actually right behind where they were filming all the house stuff.
Do what you got to do.
Yeah. So their innovative ways of getting around it was great, because when I was watching it the first time, I noticed, I thought it was really cool how they transitioned from one scene to another. When Donnie Wahlberg is in it's towards the beginning, he's in like a hotel room or something like that, and he's laying in bed. He gets a phone call from his partner, and she's like, oh, you got to come to this crime scene or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then he puts on his coat, and he walks past the wall, and it looks like it's like edited to like look like he's just walking from one scene to another. No, he literally was walking from one scene to another. Like the camera just went past the wall, because the set was right next to the other set. So there was no edit there.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I was like, it
I've
actually,
seen hidden edits, but like faking a hidden edit by just doing it, that's funny.
yeah, and that's what I thought it was a hidden edit in there. And they're like, oh no, it was literally just right next door. So we thought this would be, because there was supposed to, since everything was being filmed in the same like studio. The director was saying that there was supposed to be like 3 other cuts like that, or like 3 other edits like or scene changes like that, but like they ended up not happening. And I was like, that was kind of a cool thing, because it's like, yeah, it's like one of those that you see that's like all these special effects and everything. And this one, it was like literally, no, I just walked past a wall.
Yeah, it reminds me of the scene in Wizard of Oz where she first, enters into the Munchkin land, where they had a body double just like painted sepia, and the set was painted sepia until they opened the door.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, all done practically right there. So they had to be innovative, and I thought they did a good job with that. And then there was one other trap where the girl walks into the room. There's a clear box hanging from the ceiling, and there's a syringe in there. So she sticks her hands up in there, and it's one of those where it's like you can push your hand in, but pulling it back out is cutting you with razor blades. So she just gets stuck in there. And throughout the whole thing, each of the people stuck in the house have different personalities that come through, which was interesting. At least they all were different characters. And then eventually you have Shawnee Smith, who was from one of my favorite horror movies, The Blob from 1988. And she was in one of the traps in the first movie. And then in this movie, she's in the traps again. So she's the one like, I've been in this before, Jigsaw did this to me before. And then you get to the end and you find out she's like, oh, you know what? I found my calling. I'm working with Jigsaw. and so she's the one who traps the cop at the end, because you find out Jigsaw's dying of cancer in this movie. So Shawnee Smith is going to take on his legacy and continue on the Jigsaw franchise. I don't know how many she ended up being in. So, I don't know.
And don't forget our puppet friend.
Oh yeah, because we have the creepy puppet back on the little tricycle, and that was another one they were talking about, because there was the staircase that the SWAT team was going up, and it was more remote this time. And I think James Wan visited the set, and he's like, "Man, when I did Saw 1, I had to pull him on like a little fishing line." So
nice.
But yeah, the little infamous Jigsaw puppet with the little swirls on his cheek, riding his tricycle and making videos and whatever.
He'd be really good at TikTok,
right? So I think another thing I liked about this movie is, because I thought that I was going to dislike this because the torture porn stuff got a little bit more much, like when you get into like some of Eli Roth's movies and stuff like that. So I was like, is this going to be too much for me? But what I appreciated is the fast cutting when they were actually in some of the traps, so that you're not just sitting there lingering on the shots of them getting hurt. It like would flash and cut and show you like snippets of bad stuff when it got real bad.
That's true. And then in that way, your mind fills in the gap and it looks scarier than it really is.
Yeah. And also then, like I said, you're also not lingering on it. And so you get to think about it instead of just sitting there going, I'm going to show you this person being tortured to death. It's like they are, but they cut so fast, all over the place, that I actually appreciated that in this movie. Sometimes I don't like when there's like a bunch of fast cuts in a movie, but I think it helped this movie.
Yeah, I think it worked too.
So that it wasn't so the gruesomeness wasn't so overpowering. So that was one thing I appreciated about that. And another thing I appreciated was watching the commentary is there was some interesting tidbits in there, but also it was mostly an hour and a half of Donnie Wahlberg telling us how hot he thought the other actresses in the movie were.
Good for you, Donnie.
There's even when he gets to the scene where he like is waking up in the bed there, to answer the phone, and he goes, yeah, this was the first day of shooting. It's like nothing like starting your shoot like laying in bed half naked. He goes, you might see the tent there because Dina, the other cop, was in the room in like her bathrobe or something like that. I'm like, really, Donnie?
That's funny.
So, and every time one of the one of the other actresses came on screen, he would just be like, "She was so hot." Like anytime she was in the room, I just like she's so hot. Just like we get it, Donnie. We get it.
That's funny. I enjoy sometimes when like a commentary track goes off the rails and just gets really weird.
Yeah, this one never really went off the rails, but it was almost uncomfortable how many times he mentioned how hot the other actresses were. Shawnee Smith, man, she was hot. It's like then they were
Make it a
talking about
drinking
like
game, I guess.
yeah. What about that Maxim Saul 2 Maxim spread that we talked about where all of you girls got undressed for Maxim? It's just like cuz Beverly Mitchell was on the commentary too and she's like no, the cleavage you got in the movie is the most you're getting out of me.
That's
I'm
funny.
just like she had to be sitting in that commentary going, I am uncomfortable, Donnie Wahlberg.
Oh boy.
But it was interesting. I need to watch more commentaries on movies because they can get pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm. You can find clips of it online, but there's the commentary track that Ben Affleck did for Armageddon. He just at one point he just like this is so dumb.
Oh, because that's got the infamous one where he told the story. He goes, apparently he says, "Yeah, I went up to Michael Bay at one point and said, why don't the astronauts learn to dig instead of the diggers learn to become astronauts? Wouldn't that be better?" And his response to me was, "Shut the fuck up, Ben." I was like, all right, that's great. And so at least Michael Bay is just like, I don't care. I'm
Mhm.
making a bajillion-dollar movie that's just stupid fun.
That's always pretty great.
I don't know if there's anything else that I have of note to talk about this.
Um, I don't like the Saw movies. I saw the first one because I like James Wan's other work. I didn't care for this one, but I can appreciate this one and the work that went into it. Would I? Yeah. So I guess would you recommend this movie?
Going into this, I didn't think I was going to because I was like you, I was like, I don't know if I like this real tortury stuff, but like I think that the way it was edited, it made it seem less torturous, and I also liked that it half of the movie was Tobin Bell just playing with the cops, and I liked Tobin Bell in this movie, and I liked that storyline of him getting caught on purpose. The old Joker gets caught on purpose, or Silva gets caught on purpose, and in James Bond. But that old trick. But I like that he's caught on purpose because he's like, I'm dying of cancer. I got your kid. You want him? And I like the whole time he's just playing the detective. He's just playing him the whole time.
Yeah, like you
And
said, play him like a fiddle.
yep, he knows what he's doing, and it really shows, and it shows in his performance. I thought personally, and I liked his performance, and I liked the creativity of some of the sets and some of the devices that were meant to kill. At least there was creativity behind it. So I actually, if you're not too cringy at movies and you like horror, I'm going to give this at least a watch it on streaming on my level of rating.
Yeah. As for me, I just didn't care for it, man. I thought it was the whole playing the cop like a fiddle thing. I thought it was kind of boring because I thought Donnie Wahlberg was dumb. And then as far as the traps go, they're creative, yes, but I just this one just wasn't for me. I don't know why, and I think, but
Well,
hey,
that's
more power to you if you like it.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's no skin off anybody's back if you don't like it. So you are going with the not recommend. I'm going with a slight, basically watch it on streaming. Don't go out and rent it. Don't go spend money on it, but check it out if it's on streaming. And if you're okay with this kind of movie, you know what kind of movie this is going in. So if you are okay with this kind of movie, then I say go ahead and stream it. But what would you? So you're going to go alternative. I'll go with my double feature because I'm giving this a slight recommend is watching Saw 1. I would just say don't sit and watch both of them back to back though. Watch one night and watch another night because that can be a bit much.
Yeah, that's true.
I would not do a marathon of these movies. I will watch a marathon of any other horror franchise, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, all those. I don't think I could sit through a marathon of Saw movies. I've got to watch them separately. But I'm going to recommend you watch Saw 1 only because this does continue off of that and it comes full circle and they end up in the room that Carrie Elway and the other guy were in Saw 1. And so it's all in the same building that they were in to begin with is the whole big reveal at the end. And I guess they had to rebuild the room for this movie. So I'd go with that double feature, but like I said, it can be a bit much. So watch them on 2 separate nights. Watch a sitcom after each one of them before
There
you
you
go
go.
to bed to flush your mind a little.
Imagine Tobin Bell being voiced by Frasier.
What's that?
What if it was like, instead of Jigsaw, what if it was Frasier doing all these elaborate traps as some sort of crazy psychological experiment
That'd be
for
great.
a show? Well, you see, Niles, I did.
This guy's a bad man and he doesn't appreciate his life. So,
Well,
what
he
are you
doesn't even
going
like my show?
for? What are you going for as an alternative to this?
So this one was a harder one for me to think of, but I think I was just gonna swap since the series was started by James Wan. I think I'll just pick another one of his films. I'm gonna go with The Conjuring. I really enjoyed The Conjuring, and I felt like he probably learned some lessons here and was able to play with more of a bigger budget, keep the tension. But something about that movie I just liked a lot more, and I think because it was ghost and supernatural, it wasn't particularly gory, but I felt like it had a really good sense of suspense and dread, especially in the sequence where like the little girl is sleepwalking and all those cameras start to go off. That
Oh
was a
yeah,
great part.
the first Conjuring, that's a good choice because that's one that I would tell you right now is my rating would be buy that movie. I think the first Conjuring is a great movie.
And I did watch all of the Conjuring films in the Conjuring universe, and that one is still good.
Yeah, Conjuring 2 and 3, I still really enjoyed. I think people thought they got worse and worse, and neither one of those were better than the first movie or even as good as the first movie, but I enjoyed all of the actual Conjuring movies. Some of the Conjuring universe movies were just kind of meh.
I liked Annabelle, whatever the
Creation?
no, yeah, Annabelle Comes Home was kind of fun because I was just like felt like an amusement park ride of just all the crazy stuff that they had in that house.
Oh, okay. That's the one. I know which one you're talking about. Yeah,
Annabelle
that one was
Creation
good.
was pretty solid too.
Which one?
Annabelle Creation.
Yeah, because the first Annabelle movie that was just called Annabelle was that one was kind of meh.
I just couldn't take it very seriously because no one in their right mind would take such a creepy looking doll.
Right? It's not even like it is creepy. Not even in the nighttime. It's just you look at it during the daytime and you have nightmares.
See, I feel like what they should have done is like, at least at the start of the film, Annabelle looks normal and then slowly gets creepier.
Well, that would have been cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no one in their right mind would be like, oh, that's perfect for the baby. Like, no.
Let's
No,
put
it's
this
not.
next to the crib. Oh.
At least as it started, Chucky looked like a regular doll.
Right. The hair was not great on Chucky, but it
Mhm.
for the most part looked like a regular doll.
Yeah, it was just
You,
like a regular toy.
you know what I didn't realize is that there is a Chucky series and they're doing a second season now and I'm like what and Jennifer Tilly's still in it and Brad Dourif is still doing the voice. I'm like, how come I didn't know there was a Chucky series, but it's not streaming anywhere
Yeah,
on anything platform that I have.
and even the original creator still involved, Don Mancini.
Yeah.
And so I have seen the first season. It's a solid series. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I went and looked, and it had really great reviews, and I was like, how come I didn't know about this? I really want to see this. I love the Chucky series because they're kind of like Friday the 13th. They got sillier and sillier. I mean, when you get to like Bride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky, I mean, so and Brad Dourif, who doesn't love Brad Dourif voicing a doll? Who doesn't love Brad Dourif in anything?
That's true.
So, should we move on to our final segment here?
Sure, let's move on to our final segment of what are we going to watch next?
Okay, we tried a horror last time and we got Saw 2. Do you want to try another genre or should we just spin it?
Let's just spin it.
All right, ready, spin. All right. We have in the Nazi occupied Netherlands during World War II, a Jewish singer infiltrates the regional Gestapo headquarters for the Dutch resistance.
Where Eagles Dare?
No. Oh, this
Oh,
is actually a film by Paul Verhoeven
okay.
called Black Book. It is a Belgium film by Paul Verhoeven called Black Book. It is 2 hours and 25 minutes long, so I hope it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That was the nice thing about Saw 2 is it was like an
They're
hour and
short,
a half.
yeah.
It was short. It is on streaming on Prime Video and also on Tubi for free. So
I hope there's a scene where someone says they'd buy that for $1.
I
And
bet
then I
that
hope
for
a guy gets fired and then gets like shot out a window. And then I hope Peter Weller's there.
this is from 2006, so I doubt any of that is happening.
All I'm saying, I just want to watch RoboCop again.
That'll be the recommendation. This is the tags are spy, based on true story, and survival.
Nice. I do like spy movies.
It's a thriller drama from Paul Verhoeven.
Right on. I'll give it a shot.
All right. Well, till then, you can find us online. I'm at AwesomeKM on Twitter.
And I'm at Noah_Saturn on Twitter. That is spelled SATERN.
And we're on Instagram at We Don't Know What to Watch. And you can email us, we don't know what to watch at gmail.com. And like and subscribe. Tell us you love us. Tell us you hate us. Tell us how great my hair is. Oh, you can't see it.
It is pretty great.
And yeah, just keep on listening. Comment below. And until next time, it's a trap.
Until next time, kill some Nazis. Nazis. I hate these guys.
These guys.
Me too, Indy. Me too.